والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم. قل رب زدني علما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ومكروا ومكر الله والله خير الماكرين. إذ قال الله يا عيسى إني متوفيك ورافعك إلي ومطهرك من الذين كفروا وجاعل الذين اتبعوك فوق الذين كفروا إلى يوم القيامة ثم إلي مرجعكم فأحكم بينكم فيما كنتم فيه تختلفون. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. الله Akbar. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, continuing with the amazing story of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, and everything concerning him is amazing. Number one, his birth, which was without father, and then his speaking, to Bani Israel in the cradle, in his infancy, and then the miraculous mu'jizat, the miracles which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala produced on his hand, and then ultimately his leaving the world is miraculous as well, and his coming back will even again. So the miracles of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam are yet to be complete. We still have chapters to go. So here, as we mentioned earlier, that of course Bani Israel, as was their wont, rebellion against the prophets, it's part of their history, many of them. And as we mentioned yesterday, they were not happy about Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam because of course he was confronting the wrongdoers and the transgressors among them, particularly the moneyed class. And it seems that they had been involved in usury for quite some time. And by the way, interest was not forbidden simply by our Sharia. It was always forbidden. It was among the 10 commandments, among the very basic teachings of the Torah from the very inception. And one of those teachings is that you will not take usury interest. So the money changers used to be set up all over, Jerusalem, and in fact they were in the masjid compound, or in the area of the synagogue itself. And he was known to be extremely vehement against this class of individuals. In any case, so as we mentioned, and this is always the case, the people with power and the people with authority, they're always worried about their authority being stripped from them, and therefore opposition of prophets, opposition of any new regime that they feel threatened thereby. And so, being threatened by Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, they said, well, let's get rid of him. Now, they were not actually ruling Palestine at that time. It was ruled by the Romans at that time, by the Byzantines. So what they did was they chalked up a plan, they plotted, and the plot was that as the governor of Palestine was also responsible for the Jewish people to see their interests. So, and act favorably in terms of their, what is to be observed in terms of their religious teachings and religious norms. So they went to the governor and said, look, you see, this new fellow has come among us, Isa alayhi salam, and he is changing our religion. He's changing our Torah, and he's abrogating things, and he's causing apostates, and he's bringing about a general apostasy among our people. So, we beseech you to get rid of him. Right? So they said, okay, fine, you know better. So actually they claim that they sent, what's mentioned is that they sent, one of their forerunners to actually arrest him from among Bani Israel, and then the Romans would come thereafter and grab him. Now, what amazingly took place was that Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, opposed to what the Christians believe, that Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam in the meantime was lifted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala up to the heavens where he is until now, waiting to return, inshallah. And his likeness and impression was stamped upon the one who went to bust him, right? So he was the one that they thought was Isa alayhi salam, and they grabbed him and crucified him along with other miscreants that were being crucified. That was the punishment in those days. And so they thought that they had actually, gotten rid of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. Little did they realize that nothing of the sort. And so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that incident, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهِ. They plotted, they schemed, they devised a plan, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also devised a plan. وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best who devises plans. And his plan will never be circumvented. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here, وَإِذْ قَالَ اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى إِنِّي مُتَوَفِّيكَ وَرَافِعُكَ إِلَيَّ وَمُطَهِّرُكَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O Isa, I am going to mutawaffika, at-tawaffi. Now this has many meanings in the Arabic meaning. It can mean that I'm going to take your soul. It actually means, in Arabic it means qabd, and to take, full measure of something. So here, it is not the wafat which alludes to death. It is also not, it is also the wafat can also be mentioned, and it's alluded to in sleep. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يتوفى الأنفس حين موتها والتي لم تموت في منامها. And so, in the sleep is also a sister of death. So that's a kind of wafat. Here, the wafat is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would take Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam by his soul and by his body and lifts him up. متوفيك ورافعك إلي, and further elucidates that, and I'm going to elevate you and bring you up to me. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taken up to himself, and he remains there in the heavens until now, regardless of what anyone feels, whether that's that goes along with the rules of physics or not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kulli shay'in qadir. Allah does what he wants, however he wants, however so he wants. وَمُطَهِّرُكَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. And he's also going to cleanse you and clean you from the machinations and the plotting, the planning of the disbelievers. And جَائِلُ الَّذِينَ تَبَعُوكَ فَوْقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. And also, I'm going to make those who follow you above the people who disbelieve until the day of Qiyamah. ثُمَّ إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ. And then to me is your return. فَأَحْكُمُ بَيْنَكُمْ. And I will judge amongst you فِيمَا كُنْتُمْ فِيهِ تَخْتَلِفُونَ. About that which you had differed. So there's a number of issues here that we need to elucidate, inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So we'll attempt to do so from tomorrow, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. It may take 2 or 3 days. وبه التوفيق وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.